Welcome from the EUROBIKE. I'm here with David Millar, the face from FACTOR at the moment. So, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Markus. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, how does it go? What you're doing at the moment? What can you tell me about FACTOR, about the history, where we are going?
Yeah, so I'm a former professional racing cyclist. So I retired in 2014. And in 2015, I met Rob Getilis, who's the founder of FACTOR.
Yeah.
So there's two kind of parallel stories here, because I came out of bike racing, obviously. 2014, I went on my own trajectory.
We raced together also.
Oh yeah, we raced together, Markus, back in the day. And I spent, 8 years doing my own thing, doing chapter 3, doing kind of lots of different things. And in parallel, Rob was building FACTOR. From 2015 to now, and in last year, Rob asked me, because I was just closing down my company, and he said, "Do you want to come and work with FACTOR?" And I said, "I'd love to, because I've been on the outside looking in for 10 years, and it seemed like an amazing opportunity." And so, for me, it's a huge privilege to be in my role. So at FACTOR, I'm the brand director, but I'm responsible for the marketing, what we'd refer to as a storytelling, but also trying to educate people on what FACTOR is.
Yeah.
And it's an absolutely incredible brand and company. And I'll give a little bit of the backstory of it so that people can understand. So FACTOR is a British brand.
Yeah.
It was created in about 2008, 2009 by a small company called BF1 in the UK, who were a supplier to motorsports F1. They were very much a very premium, top-ended performance company that decided to try and make a bike as a skunkworks experimental project to try and apply the technology they use in motorsport into cycling. And they came to EUROBIKE in 2009 with that experimental bike and won Bike of the Show here.
Yeah.
And with the success of that initial concept bike, they wanted to try and see if they could make it for production. And they were put in touch with Rob Getilis, who's an American who's been based in Taiwan and who had been the pioneer of carbon fiber bike manufacturing for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
He's a former professional racing cyclist who arrived in Taiwan in 1996, met a girl, the old story, decided to stay there. But he's a former professional cyclist who also happens to have a degree in chemical engineering. And so he had a grasp of kind of the ability to transfer out and go into different things. And he found himself in Taiwan in 1996 and started working within the burgeoning premium cycling performance industry. And by the middle of the 2000s, he was pioneering carbon fiber bike manufacturing. So when FACTOR, this small little company, came to Rob Getilis, they knew that he was the only guy in the industry who could make this bike. At the same time, Rob realized that he wanted to stop making bikes for other people.
Yeah.
He wanted to create his own brand.
Yeah.
He wanted to make bikes how he believed they should be made, which was no compromises, no cost cutting, and extremely performance top-end driven bikes. And FACTOR was a perfect vehicle for that. So he took over the brand, and in 2015, 2016, when I met him, that was when the FACTOR journey began. And FACTOR since then has just been, under Rob, the owner, he has just been absolutely relentless on making the boldest, most exciting, fastest bikes in the world.
Yeah.
It's all he believes in.
Yeah.
All he believes in is making the best bikes in the world. There's no compromises. And so that's what FACTOR is. I think we really are, and we're unique in the industry in the sense we're the only brand that owns its own factory. We own our factory, our research and development, from the very concept of the bike to the carbon layup to the final lick of paint. That's all owned by FACTOR. There's not one other bike brand in the world that does that, because we do it and we don't make for anybody else.
Yeah.
It's just FACTOR. It has its own factory, its own engineers, its own research and development. So we very much are an engineering innovation company above everything else that happens to also have this beautiful brand.
Yeah, for that, never status quo.
Yeah.
We work now also 5 years, a little bit more with FACTOR, and we have seen you came from the Formula One in bike sport, very fast, no compromise,
No, and I think this is that sort of motto, never status quo, which is never stand still, basically. It's just kind of a fancy way of saying it. It's very much how we internally, I mean, I've seen it now firsthand, how Rob and our engineers, every bike we make is a stepping stone and learning to the next bike.
Okay.
You know, we're never sitting still. It's, you know, there's bikes around here. Every single bike has educated and taught us how to do something else. And if you use the Olympic track, the Hanzo track, which was 2 years of development to do this track bike, that's a non-commercial bike. It's ridiculous. But it's the fastest bike in the world and optimized to 70 kilometers an hour. And from that, we learned so much that we then realized, well, actually, we can take this learning and apply it into a road bike, which is the prototype bike, which is here at the show, which people have seen at the Dauphiné, which has already won a race, and which, frankly, is going to change the whole industry. But that came from the learnings of what all the development we put into the Olympics and the Australian national team, and what eventually delivered a world record and gold medal. And we've now transferred that and amalgamated the Austro VAM with the Hanzo track, and you have this crazy chimera.
Yeah, I think Rob likes it to go to the UCI and say, we have here an idea, or we want to make a new bike. Can you check if it's possible? We see it now with the new bike we have here on the booth. It's very fast. We have the first victories, and it's going always.
I think that's something that people need to understand as well, is that we see in the news about UCI rules, etc. Our engineers and Rob, we respect the rules. You know, we don't design bikes to break rules. If we're coming up with a very advanced concept, before we get any way into development, we will look at the rules, we will go to the UCI, we will speak with them and say, look, can we take this further within the rules? Do the rules need to be, are we challenging the rules too much? Or even challenge them to think, look, this is the way bike development's going. What do you think about adapting this and that? So the rules can actually be a really interesting and inspirational way to think outside. Because you've got to work within those rules. So how do you optimize everything within that box, within that? And so I think actually the rules do serve a great purpose. And for Factor, we never break the rules, but we will push them to the very edge.
That's on the road, but also in gravel, you are looking always forward. What happens worldwide? What happens in Europe? And what happens in big American races? So
gravel has been this exploding scene, as we've seen in the last few years, and with the Austro Gravel, which we released 3 years ago, was like so far ahead of the curve, and it was a pure aero racing gravel bike. Before that really existed, you know, people were like, why would you do that? But now in 2025, everybody's about aerodynamics and absolutely high-speed performance gravel. But we've seen, whereas 3 or 4, 5 years ago, it was one gravel bike does everything, we don't believe that's the case anymore. There are so many different types of gravel rider and gravel events, and we compartmentalize them slightly. So the Austro Gravel, which we have at the moment, is effectively kind of crossovers, high-speed racing. It's also, it can do anything, the Austro Gravel, but it's very much optimized for performance gravel. And so we've come up with a new bike that's coming out in August called the Aluto, which it's the same geometry as the Austro Gravel. It's got the Factor feel. It's very responsive. It's got short chain stays. The difference is we've lowered the bottom bracket to give a lower center of gravity to allow for the ability to have larger tires. You go up to 47 mils on the back, 52 millimeters on the front, which is kind of, I think, where the whole sport is going in regards to larger clearance. But it's also got a different carbon layup and different tube shape and a slightly raised stack. So the bike has a completely different feel. So although it's got the same geometry and the same Factor feel, so it's very Factor kind of responsive, agile, it just feels so bright and alive. Even with, I mean, I've ridden it with 48s on it, low pressure, and it still feels alive. So it's a beautiful bike, and that's very much our all-round. It's still a racing, we still consider it a racing sort of bike, but it's a bike that can do anything. It's your kind of all-round gravel bike. So that's the Aluto. That comes out in August. Then we have what we're unnamed still, but this is a bike that Rob actually rode at Unbound, which is the Ultra Machine. This is something that is designed for very much those crazy long events that can sometimes take you on single track, that can take you for more than like multiple days of riding. So we wanted it to have longer straight line stability. We wanted it to have more comfort, cushioning within the frame. So it's got a slightly curved seat stay and chain stays to give a little bit of softness, vertical spring. It's also got compatibility for suspension forks, and it's got huge clearance, so you can put full mountain bike tires on it. And it's also got 31.4 seat posts, so you can put dropper posts. So that's the ultra kind of gravel bike that will be coming later in the year as well. So we'll then have Ostro Gravel, performance racing, high speed, do everything. We've got the Aluto, which we kind of refer to as a pocket knife, which is a beautiful all-round everything gravel bike. Then we've got the Ultra, kind of to be named, which is just an amazing extreme gravel bike. So that's how we see gravel going, those sort of three categories.
And you did the tracker this year on
I did that on the Ostro Gravel.
Yeah.
So I did this, so which is kind of goes to show the versatility of the Ostro Gravel. Because I was 560 kilometers. And I put the aero bars on it. So, and it's absolutely fine for that. But that's because I didn't have the Aluto. Otherwise, I think I would have used the Aluto for it, because I think that would have been better, a bit more comfortable. But yeah, I mean, I think every bike is adaptable to anything, but we like to try and optimize. As we learn, we optimize more. So we're given the option, and I think it's like anything. If you, even with our road bikes, you'll see you have the Ostro VAM, you have the O2 VAM, which are kind of two very different bikes. You know, but we've learned that as we go along, you can kind of create these categories, and the O2 VAM's a magical bike, but it's very different to the Ostro VAM. Yeah,
it's very interesting because in the beginning was all about performance, very fast and stuff like this, but now we see also that Factor is coming with the Monza for all-day racing, and we have the Slick, so for people, because we know on the market we have a lot of people, they love Factor, but they say, but that's not possible for me. We have a lot of people, they buy it because they have the money, or they are sportives and they say, I need the bike. And now is coming, now we get full bikes, which are also very interesting. That we get more bikes on the floor and have fun with it. And also they are raceable, made for races.
All our bikes are made for racing. I think the Monza is a very good example. So that's the road bike we released this year, which what we did with that was we almost, because we talk about in performance marginal gains. So you're always taking things away. You're always trying to reduce. We realized there was a gap for the type of rider who didn't need everything to be taken away, who actually needed a bit more, needed it to be a bit more robust, needed to have internal frame storage, needed it to have kind of a round seat post so that you could put on lights, and also bigger clearance. And so the Monza was very much created for the type of rider, what we refer to as the everyday racer. It's the kind of people who don't see the need to have a bike that's completely stripped down, designed for a Tour de France racer, because that is, you know, it does make it more expensive, it does make it more extreme. And so the Monza was very much our solution to that. Same handling. We've raised the stack a little bit, because we know most people don't need that hyper aggressive aerodynamic position leaned over. So the Monza was very much our answer to, well, how do we bring all that learning and technical knowledge that we've got, that we apply into the Ostro VAM, and bring it to kind of more people. So, and that's very much what the Monza was like. It wasn't a case of let's just hit a price point. It was actually, let's bring Factor to more people. And that does mean actually designing the bike slightly differently and adding bits on rather than taking bits off. So.
But it's not also only the performance, because Factor comes out also every year with limited editions. Also you have your limited edition. What is very nice, we have also a new one here on the booth. That's also a very nice thing, because people come and love it. That's perfect.
I think the limited editions, the special editions, have always been something, because again, because Factor has the ability to, we own our own paint shop. We have the most amazing kind of abilities to do these things. And because again, we're quite agile, owning our own factory, we can do limited and special edition runs quite quickly, which other brands can't do. But the latest one, the watercolor, is probably one of the most beautiful we've done.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, in the sense that it's absolutely unique as well, in that there are no two the same because they're hand painted. And so the watercolor is pretty special, and I think it's been pretty amazing. Anybody who sees it in real life just falls in love with it.
Yeah.
I think it really is just such a special bike. So I think we're going to do less and less of those special editions because we think make them really special. So I think only 2-3 a year is the plan. So the watercolor is one of our three this year, maybe 4.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
So you live in Girona, where now is also the European headquarters from Girona. So it's perfect. You have your office also there.
Yeah.
But you are the storyteller. You make the management with the teams and all that stuff. But you are testing also a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I am. I have it's been amazing actually being with Factor because, as I said, we actually do design the bikes from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I've built a relationship with the engineers now and with Rob. And yeah, they send, like I'm on a prototype bike at the moment, which I never even got when I was a professional cyclist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like, I'm 48 years old. I'm in this role and I get to speak more to the engineers and understand more about bike design, bike engineering than I ever did when I was a racer. And I think it's a great privilege to be able to actually test bikes, to be involved, and it's one of the things I'm passionate about, always have been. And so and being in Girona, as you say, it's become the cycling capital of the world. You know, it's just incredible. We've got road, gravel, mountain biking, this crazy community. It's just phenomenal. So we're pretty lucky to be based there.
Nice. And we talked about now Tour de France is coming. You go to the Tour. What are you doing on the Tour de France?
Yeah, so I'll be at the Tour de France. I'm a commentator for British television.
Okay.
So for ITV. So I'll be doing that the whole race. I'm on the road, always at the finish line. I've been doing that for nearly 10 years now. This is my last year doing it. So I'll be there. I think I'm going to do, maybe I'll commit to it here, like the daily diary that I'll be sending from Factor to kind of, I've done it a few days in the past where I just kind of go through, take behind the scenes of the Tour de France. So that's what I'll be doing in July. So I'll be actually deep in the race, on the race, with the peloton on the other side of the
But you are every day also in contact with the team?
Yeah, a little bit less so. I mean, I think, obviously we have Jost, who works with us at Factor, who is our liaison. But to be honest with you, once the Tour de France starts, the teams just go in their bubble, you know. This year is going to be a little bit different because we're going to be, with the prototypes, are going to be in the field. So there's going to be more riders in Israel Premier Tech who are racing on the prototypes, so that's exciting. So there'll be a lot of feedback from that and understanding. But no, other than that, we kind of leave them to it and just wish them the best of luck. Our work is done. Yeah.
But for the Tour, I think it's interesting for the people, the racers. How much bikes have they on the Tour? Now they have a new bike with it, and I think a few stages they will ride on it. Yeah,
so they'll have, I mean, I think each rider will have about 3 to 4 road bikes, 2 time trial bikes. It's about 6. So yes, it's about 48, 50, approximately 50 with extra spares, 50 bikes for a team. So there's a lot of bikes. So I imagine there'll be Ostrovam, O2 VAM, and the prototype, and Hanzo. So each rider will have 2 Hanzos, 2 Ostrovams, an O2 VAM,
amazing,
and some a prototype. Yeah, it's not terrible, is it? Yeah, it's kind of pretty cool. Yeah.
And what do you think Tour de France will be good? Yeah.
Tour de France is good every year at the moment. So, I mean, I think we're in a golden era of cycling. I think it's a great privilege to watch. You know, it's never been more exciting. And I think even if Tadej Pogačar is dominating, I think it's such a privilege to watch a champion like him do what he's doing. It doesn't happen very often. And I think with Jonas Vingegaard, it's going to be really interesting because I think he's on the up and up. He's the only rider in the world that can get close to Pogačar.
Yeah.
Only rider in the world. So I think it's just going to be Jonas versus Tadej for 3 weeks, like death match. It'll be good.
So now we have 3 weeks of testing again, the prototype, and then we can hope that end of the year we can get it also, because a lot of people ask for, oh, is it finally, when can we buy it?
Yeah.
That's very nice.
I think we're very happy with how the testing's gone. So I think we were pleasantly surprised. I think the engineers knew they were pretty sure they had everything right, regards the kind of the geometry, the handling, the kind of what they'd done. But it had to be raced at the Dauphiné to confirm that. And obviously it did, and Jake loved it, and he won a stage. So I think now Rob is happening. It's all happening. So I'm not sure what the delivery date is, but they will be available before long.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for joining us. Have a nice time here in Frankfurt, but you leave tomorrow, because then you go home and then enjoy Tour de France, and if it's possible, I will meet you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Markus.